Today on Fix My Oculus, we're going to fix the speaker arm and the charge port on a Quest 3S. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another repair tutorial. If you haven't had a chance to subscribe to the channel, please consider doing so. It does help the channel out, and we learn a lot about VR repair and maintenance. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, knowing how to repair your VR or take care of them, then this is a good place to be. Also, liking the videos always helps me out. And if you do have any questions throughout the video, you can just drop those in the comments. They're always fun to read, and if you have a legitimate issue with your VR, maybe we can help. Also, we are still doing our Blackout Quest 3S giveaway, so if you've not had a chance to enter into that yet, please consider doing so. That giveaway does end on July 4th. And one last thing, we do have some new t-shirts for you guys. So whether or not you're a VR enthusiast or just kind of a casual VR player, we may have some shirts that you might like, so go check it out. And with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started. So here's the thing with these. The Quest 3s and 3Ss both use these plastic mounting rings to hold the speaker arms in. And I'm not sure why they designed it this way, because they break. They break like all the time. And because the charge port and the speaker both run through there, it's a design that just kind of lends itself to breaking multiple components. In this case, our speakers stayed attached, but our charge port got messed up. And I picked this headset for this repair specifically because this one presented a new issue, which was the ring on the inside actually gave way as well. On the Quest 2, they approached this from a completely different direction. The speaker is actually housed inside the base of the speaker arm here. You can see where it connects here. And then that sits inside the frame, which, you know, it could break, but it was more stable. I saw a lot less issues like this on these units. And so on the Quest 3, you can see that the speaker actually just kind of sits on the frame here, and it's relying on that ring to hold it in place. If the ring breaks or gives way, or the frame breaks and gives way, then you end up with something that looks like this. So on the Quest 3S, whether it was for cost or an engineering thing, they decided to go with this ring, and then they mount the speaker ring inside of it with the charge port in there. But it just seems like they can't figure it out because they keep breaking. And if it wasn't this that was going to break off, it was going to be this. Both of these components just don't seem to hold up under a lot of strain. And what's really not a lot of fun is that this seems to happen when people are taking the straps on and off. And it really seems like what people are doing is just pulling their straps off on this tab here because that looks like a good place to do it. But by exerting energy this way, you create a fulcrum on those two plastic pieces. So this is your friendly PSA. Don't pull the strap like this, twist it off. By taking my thumb and backing it with my index finger and just twisting away from the speaker arm, it pretty much guarantees that I'm not going to do this to it. So anyway, that's your friendly PSA. But unfortunately for this customer, it is broken, and now we need to fix it. Depending on your exact situation and how the headset broke, you're going to need any one or more of the combination of these things. So you may need a mounting ring. You may need the mounting ring retainer bracket that sits on the inside of the shell. You may or may not need a charge port if that broke when the speaker arm came off. And you may or may not need a speaker arm if that broke off. For this specific repair, I'm not going to need a speaker arm because that wire is intact. I may or may not need this mounting ring. It kind of looks damaged to me, but I'm going to hold my breath and hope that it is actually intact and we can just kind of reseat everything once I've installed the new bracket. And of course, for this one, I am going to need the new charge port as well because this one is messed up. To get into the headset, you are going to need a T3 screwdriver and a Phillips 00 screwdriver. I always recommend a metal pry tool. This is the one that I like to use. Tweezers always come in handy, and you'll need a 3.5 hex bit to get the board out. And now that we've got all of our tools and our parts and we know what we need, let's go ahead and get started. Getting into the Quest 3S is actually pretty straightforward. We have 6 T3 screws, 4 up top, and then 2 down below that we need to take out in order to remove the faceplate. Once I've got those screws out, we're going to use our metal pry tool here. And what we're going to do here is actually we're just going to shove this right here. This is basically dead center. I'll show you on this side. It's basically dead center on the side of the headset. And then from here, we can just kind of lean back and pop this out. And that clip pops. And then we have the other one on this side. And now this face shield just comes all the way off. Now that I've removed that, you can see how torn up this charge port cable is. Yikes. Next, you're going to need your Phillips driver. I like to use a 00 bit for this, but you can use a 000. 000 just may slip a little bit more. There's 2 screws on either side of the battery, and then there's one down here at the bridge of the nose. And then these white tabs here that are kind of off to the side, we got to take those 2 screws out as well. So 5 screws in total. And now that those screws are out, we can come back around to this side. And I suppose if you really needed to use a pry tool for this, you probably could, but most of the time I can just get my fingernails in here and kind of pop at the top corner and then pop it on the other corner here. And the whole thing just kind of comes out. And now we're getting into the good stuff. I'm going to start by taking off these two brackets that hold the cables down. There's 2 screws here and then 3 screws on this one. And then with nothing holding them there, these brackets just kind of pop out. This one is a little trickier because it's got this Wi-Fi antenna that's hooked in. So we'll go ahead and pop that and set it on the other side with our tweezers. And then it just lifts out. Super easy. Next is this big camera assembly here, and there's 4 screws that hold that in. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. There's a couple more steps before we can take the camera assembly out. We need to unlatch this ribbon here. And we'll go ahead and pull that out straight. And then this is connected right here, but this is just adhesive that keeps it on here. So I'm just going to slide my tweezers back here, and we're just going to very gently pull that off. Okay, now that's free, and I'll go ahead and pop the camera connector cables. And then there is a little bit of tape that holds these down, but you don't need to worry about that too much because it's just tape. It's not going to hurt anything. And then this whole assembly just kind of flips down. So next you can take your thumbnail or a pry tool and you can just pop this antenna out. And then we're going to pull it away from these little retainers that hold it onto the aluminum shield there. And that just comes out. Next thing is this big plastic ring that goes around the whole thing in and holds the fan in. And for this, I've really just got 2 screws to worry about. They're both here at the top. And then we've got our little activity LED here. We'll go ahead and use our tweezers to get underneath where the adhesive is and just pop that up so we don't tear it. And then I'll go ahead and unplug my fan as well. And now this whole big old plastic ring thing just comes off. Nothing crazy here. If you're following along and doing your own repair at home, you can do it. I believe in you. Just stick with it. Now I'm just going to kind of go around and just make sure that all of these ribbon cables are pulled away from the board. Speaker wire is a little funky, but if you've done Quest 2s or Quest 3s, it's the same. I'm going to grab with my tweezers at the base here, and I'm basically just going to pull straight up. And I'll show you that one more time. We're going to grab at the base here, and we're going to pull straight up. We've got a zip connector up here. We're just going to use our pry tool to pop that very gently. And then I'm going to take my tweezers and find the tabs here and lift that up. And we're going to pop this one as well. Be very gentle with those. I've done it a lot, so I've got a good feel for it. But if you've not done it before, they are easy to break. And this is our LCD cable. We'll go ahead and pull that off. And our last 2 little things are just these antennas at the top. Next, we're going to take the board out of here. We're going to go ahead and start with these black screws because they're easy to get to, and that's the only reason why. Really, when it comes to screws, you can do these in any order, as long as there's not a component that obscures their placement. There's one more little black screw down here. We'll go ahead and take that out. And then after that, we need our hex bit. It's a 3.5 hex bit to get these little bolts out of here. And then we've got this other one on the other side. And now our board just lifts out of place. This antenna that runs behind the board, we'll go ahead and pull this out of place. Sometimes these little retainers are a little tight, so I'll just pry that up with some tweezers gently. And then same thing on this one. We just need to pop this cable out of these little holders so that we can remove the LCD. Battery cable has some adhesive behind it, so I've got my pry tool and I'm just going to lift that up. And then we've got 2 little weird cloth retainers that hold these cables down at the very bottom. Got that one right there. And then we've got the other one on this side. This cable here has adhesive pretty much along the whole thing. So just be gentle removing it. And then same thing for that one. And now that all my cables are out of the way, we can unscrew the LCD from the shell. I've got one screw here, got a little screw down here at the corner, another corner screw, and a screw on the left side. And then we have one last screw up here at the top. And now this LCD, as long as the cables are out of the way, will just come right out. And now finally, we can start to fix the actual problem. Finally, I'm gonna go ahead and unhook this speaker wire here from the inside, and we'll set that aside. I've got two screws here that hold what's left of the charge port in. And that's pretty much trashed now. And we have to undo these three screws that hold this bracket in. And finally, that broken bracket can come out. It's crazy how these teeth have sheared off. This is the bad one, and this is the new one. I'm gonna do a couple things here that are gonna make my life a little easier. I'm gonna go ahead and assemble this now and then install it all as one piece. So first things first, we're gonna put our ring in here, and the little rubber gaskets do sometimes get stuck. I feel like I can usually take my metal pry tool here and almost just kind of wedge them in and get everything flush that way. Then we're gonna take our charge port and we're just gonna line it up so that it slides inside. And then this is a pretty important step. You actually do need to screw this in so that charge port doesn't go anywhere. All right, that's looking pretty good. Then we'll go ahead and just pop that back in there. And we'll go ahead and put these screws back in place so that our bracket doesn't go anywhere. And I forgot to mention this earlier, but this mounting ring definitely is busted. You can see that cracked plastic there. So it's not just that this is kind of out of place, it's broken and wasn't gonna do its job. So I just went ahead and installed the new mounting ring in there, and now we need to take this broken one out of the speaker arm so that we can use the speaker arm. And there's just three little screws on the inside that hold this in. And like I said before, this is a fairly extreme example of speaker arms breaking. Most of the time it's one component or maybe two. And in this case, we've got three broken components. But again, it could have been four. If the speaker wire had broken, then we'd be replacing that as well. And there's one of our teeth from that ring, just fell out. Cool. Now we're gonna go ahead and take the speaker wire and feed it through this hole here. Then you'll feel things kind of click into place. Like there's just a way that it can set and be in there. It's obviously not clicked into place there. And I'm just gonna turn it, and now it feels like it's in place. Once I've done that, I can go ahead and grab those three little screws that I just took out of the bad speaker mounting ring. And we'll go ahead and put these back in here to hold the speaker in place. And that feels pretty good to me. That's working, doing its job. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this speaker wire back into that little clip there. We're gonna go ahead and screw this charge port back down in place. And now we are ready to rebuild. I'm just gonna make sure that all of my cables are kind of out of my way so that I've got the best opportunity to put this LCD assembly back in place. Also helps if your IPD is collapsed. So it could be set on 3, but I'm gonna set it on 1. And then that just gives me a little bit more wiggle room to get this in the right spot. These speaker wires always kind of want to get tucked up in here. So just keep an eye out for those. I mean, they all kind of want to get tucked back up in there. It's just a matter of paying attention and making sure that nothing got hung up. Now I've got 4 long screws and a short screw. Our little short screw is going to go back up on top. And then these screws are all the same, but we need to do the 2 on the sides and then the 2 down below on the corners. And all my cables look like they're accounted for. I just like to double check. And then we'll go ahead and start threading this antenna back into these clips. And then same thing on this side. And now that I've got those in place, I can go ahead and reinstall this board. Looking pretty good there. Screw order really doesn't matter. Again, it's just about making sure that you get all of the right screws in the right places. So I like to start with these hex bits. And then we have 2 long screws and a short screw. The shorter one goes underneath the heat sink here, and the longer ones go into the heat sink. And 2. Great. I'm gonna go ahead and reinstall these brackets and the tiny little screws that hold them in. It's cloth side up, plastic side down. I'm not sure it matters too much, but the orientation of these will dictate whether or not you can actually slot them into place. And now we can go ahead and start clipping some cables back in. I like to start with the LCD cable, and it really just pushes down, but you got to make sure that it clips all the way, because you'd hate to get it all back together and have that not properly seated, and you'll have no image and you'll be upset. We'll go ahead and do this little guy next. And again, just be really careful with these zip connectors, because I've seen a lot of people get this far and then break off one of these little latches here and they're cooked. And that's not a fun feeling. Go ahead and plug our antennas back in. They just kind of clip on, nothing crazy there. Got our side camera cable there, just presses down. And then our speaker wires, they just go straight down as well. And that's another thing you want to make sure you latch properly. That should be flush with the connection. Same thing on this side, camera connector and our charge port. We go ahead and take this big fan assembly here, and we need to thread this LED through here. And then we'll go ahead and screw this back down into place. Take note of the fact that I've not plugged this in yet, because we're going to do the camera connection. And I don't want to plug this in until that camera connection's in, because it just kind of makes it hard to work around. And then we will go ahead and plug our fan in. So I've got my big old camera assembly here. We'll go ahead and take the Bluetooth antenna and pop that into the board. And we just pop that onto the board. It really does just kind of clip in there, but you know, be gentle with it. Use your sense of feeling and the force if it's available to you, if you're force sensitive. Getting this threaded through here does kind of require tweezers. There's a reason I always recommend tweezers for these jobs. Getting this threaded through here does kind of require it. And now we're looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and pop this side down first. And that feels flush to me. And then we'll pop this side in second. I don't really visually align these. It's more by sense of touch. I suppose you can try to visually align them, but for the most part, you're going in blind. If it's not going down and you're using a reasonable amount of force, it's not gonna go down. So just realign, find where it starts to give, find where it aligns, and then put a moderate amount of pressure on it to see if it will seat. If you press down too hard and things aren't aligned, you can damage those connections on the board, and then you're kind of cooked. So just be mindful. And now finally we've got this cable. We'll go ahead and close that latch. And then most of the time this has enough adhesive on it to just stay put. I've got 2 long screws and 2 teeny tiny screws. I'll go ahead and do the long screws first. They go at the bottom. And then the short screws go in these holes right here. And then this headset's pretty much put together, so we're just gonna go ahead and plug this battery back in. Again, you're kind of going in blind. It's hard to visually align it, but if you don't feel like it's seating properly, it's not seating properly. And then we should be able to plug this in and get a light. That's what we wanna see. That headset's charging. I'm gonna go ahead and let that charge, and we're gonna go ahead and put these brackets back in place while that's doing its thing. Remember, this one just kind of sits on top. It doesn't hook onto anything, but we do have 3 screws that hold this down. This one is a little trickier because we have to loop this antenna up over it, and then we'll go ahead and screw these down. Putting the face shield back on is pretty easy. It's just a matter of aligning it and then clipping it down. Got a charge light now. It's not blinking red, so I should get a display image, and I do. We're still charging though. Hopefully by the time I'm done putting these screws back in place, it has enough charge to boot up. And then we've got the 5 screws that hold the faceplate in. We'll go ahead and put those in place. And then we can take our face shield and pop that into place. 2 clips on the side, 1 there, and 1 there. And then we have our 6 T2 screws. We'll go ahead and put those in place. And it looks like this headset's charging, so let's go ahead and turn it on. That's a pretty good sign. And that headset's working. You can go ahead and turn it off. Cool, so that's how you repair a speaker arm on a Quest 3S. I don't really have a whole lot of commentary on this. It is annoying when it happens, and it's annoying that they are designed the way that they are, because these things are just not made to last. Not only are they not made to last, they are engineered in such a way that anybody who doesn't know that it's a potential issue will almost inevitably break these things. This is our most common repair on the Quest 3, and it's becoming our most common repair on the Quest 3S. So just be careful, and be careful taking your straps off. That seems to be what causes it the most. I'm not saying that it can't be caused by other things, but anything that puts pressure on the speaker arms coming out, it's going to cause it. I can almost assure you. If you have made it far into this video and you learned something, please do consider giving me a like. It helps the channel out, helps us grow. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments below. Also, if you have a VR headset that you're either trying to fix or trying to maintain and just take care of, or you just have a broad interest in VR technology in general, and you haven't subscribed yet, what are you doing? We cover all sorts of things on this channel. Obviously, we do repairs and how to fix things yourself, but also new VR tech and a lot of different things that you should probably just know about taking care of your controllers and your headsets. Also, we are still doing the Blackout Quest 3S giveaway. If you haven't entered yet, what are you doing? Go enter. You could get a free Blackout Quest 3S. Even if you already have a headset, it's still a pretty cool headset to have. Or you could give it to a friend. So check out the link in the description for ways to enter. But that's really all I've got for you guys today. Thanks for sticking with me and watching this video. We will see you guys on the next one.